quiet farmer taken at gunpoint discovers her captors have no idea she's actually a battle-hardened military officer with lethal skills. When corrupt officials kidnap her to force her surrender, will her covert training be enough to defeat an enemy hiding behind government badges? The screech of tires on gravel jolted me awake before sunrise. I grabbed my shotgun from under the bed and peeked through the curtains. 3 black SUVs with dark windows rolled up my dirt driveway, kicking up dust clouds in the pink morning light. My heart pounded. No one visits a farm this early unless something's wrong. "Ethan," I whispered, rushing to my son's room. At 10 years old, he slept like a rock, tangled in dinosaur sheets. "Wake up, buddy. Go to the hiding spot we practiced." His eyes snapped open, already filled with fear. We'd practiced this drill monthly since moving to the farm. I never thought we'd need it. "Is it happening, Mom?" His voice trembled. "Just a precaution. Remember what to do." I kept my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. He nodded, sliding under his bed and through the small passage to the hidden closet we'd built. "Call Aunt Sarah if you don't come back in an hour." I kissed his forehead and tucked his stuffed dog beside him. "I'll be right back." This is probably nothing. Outside, I left the shotgun propped inside the door. Couldn't risk looking threatened. Instead, I grabbed my work gloves, smudged dirt on my cheeks, and stepped onto the porch like I'd been up for hours doing chores. The morning dew soaked through my worn boots as I walked toward the vehicles, channeling every bit of the simple farmer I'd pretended to be for the past 3 years. 5 men in dark suits emerged. Government types. I could tell from their posture, their haircuts, the way they surveyed the property. I'd been one of them once. Before Ethan. Before the farm. Maya Wilson, a tall man with a square jaw, stepped forward. "Depends who's asking." I pulled off my gloves, buying seconds to scan their vehicles. "No markings." "Not good. We need you to come with us." He flashed a badge too quickly to read. "I've got chickens to feed and a kid to get to school. Whatever this is about can wait for a reasonable hour." I turned my back, a calculated risk to see how they'd react. The crunch of gravel told me 2 men were approaching fast. I braced myself, but kept walking. "Ms. Wilson, this isn't a request." A hand clamped onto my shoulder. Years of training screamed at me to break his arm. 3 moves would put him on the ground gasping. Instead, I shrugged him off like an irritated civilian. "Get your hands off me. I have rights. You've been identified as connected to environmental terrorist activities targeting government facilities." The leader approached with handcuffs. "We have authority to bring you in for questioning." My mind raced. Environmental terrorism? I've been careful to build my cover as an organic farmer concerned about water rights, but nothing that would trigger this level of response. Something was wrong. "This is crazy. I grow tomatoes and raise chickens." I protested as 2 men grabbed my arms. "Check my house. Check my bank accounts. I've done nothing wrong." The front door slammed open. Ethan stood there, baseball bat in hand despite our plan. "Get away from my mom." "Ethan, no." I screamed. "Go back inside." The leader nodded to one of his men, who moved toward my son. "Don't you touch him." I fought against the grip on my arms, my cover slipping as trained muscle memory kicked in. I twisted, broke one hold, almost free when something hard struck the back of my head. Stars exploded across my vision as I dropped to my knees. Through blurry eyes, I saw Ethan struggling as they held him back. "Mommy," he screamed. "It's okay, baby." I managed, though blood trickled down my neck. "Call Aunt Sarah. Remember what we practiced." The last thing I saw was Ethan's terrified face as they dragged me toward the SUV. They didn't search me thoroughly enough to find the dog tags hidden beneath my shirt. Lieutenant Colonel Maya Wilson, Special Operations, supposedly on extended leave after 3 combat tours. These fools had no idea who they'd just taken. I woke to the smell of hay and motor oil. My head throbbed where they'd hit me. Rough rope bound my wrist behind my back so tightly my fingers tingled. I was sitting on something hard, one of my own wooden chairs from a barn. A white cloth was tied tightly around my mouth, the fabric digging into the corners of my lips. Through the cloth gag, I tried to call out, but only muffled sounds emerged. My eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through cracks in the wooden walls. My barn. They hadn't even taken me off my property. Footsteps approached on the dirt floor. A tall figure blocked the light. "She's awake," a voice called out. Someone yanked the gag down around my neck. I gasped for fresh air, mind racing through escape scenarios. "Water," I croaked, buying time to assess the situation. A bottle was pressed roughly to my lips, water spilling down my chin. I drank greedily, counting footsteps. At least 3 men in the barn. "Where are the documents, Ms. Wilson?" The leader from earlier crouched before me, his badge now visible. Department of Interior, Environmental Protection Division. But something was off about it. After 15 years in military intelligence, I could spot a fake. "What documents?" "I don't know what you're talking about." I let fear creep into my voice. Exactly what they'd expect from a kidnapped single mother. "The files you stole from the Riverside facility." He grabbed my chin. "We know you took water and soil samples." "Where are they?" My mind clicked pieces together. The abandoned chemical plant 3 miles downstream from my farm. I'd noticed dead wildlife near the runoff channels last month. Just like any concerned citizen, I'd taken samples, planning to report it to the EPA. "I'm just a farmer worried about my water supply," I said, letting tears fill my eyes. The fish were dying in the creek. I took samples to the county extension office. "That's all." A slap across my face snapped my head sideways. My combat training screamed to counterattack, but I forced myself to whimper instead. "Your bleeding heart environmental group has been a thorn in our side for months," he snarled. "Who did you send the chemical analysis to?" I had no environmental group. The county agent had simply told me he'd forward my concerns appropriately. What had I stumbled into? "Please," I begged, playing my role. "My son needs me. I don't know anything about any documents." The leader stood, disgust on his face. "Tighten her restraints and watch her. No food until she talks." He shoved the gag back into my mouth, tying it painfully tight. As they walked away, I tested the ropes binding my wrists. Amateur work. Given time, I could escape. But first, I needed information. Through my tears, some real, some for show, I studied everything. The barn door opened briefly, revealing 2 more SUVs parked beside the first 3. Heavy security for one supposedly harmless farmer. Night fell. My captors changed shifts every 4 hours. They brought no food as promised, but offered water twice, temporarily removing my gag. I memorized faces, names murmured between them. Regional Director Victor Mercer would arrive tomorrow. The name meant nothing to me. In the darkness, I worked silently at the ropes. My wrists bled from the effort, but I felt the binding loosen slightly. Outside, an owl hooted 3 times in quick succession, then twice more. My heart leaped. That wasn't an owl. Captain James Rivera, my former second-in-command, lived 20 miles away under the guise of a mechanic. That signal meant military intelligence had been activated. My emergency protocols were in motion. I closed my eyes, weighing options. If James was here, Ethan was safe with my sister Sarah. But these men wouldn't have staged such an elaborate kidnapping for simple water samples. I'd stumbled onto something big, something worth killing for. The barn door creaked. A new figure entered, taller than the others, with an unmistakable military bearing despite the civilian clothes. "Has she talked?" he asked the guard. "Nothing useful. Says she's just a concerned citizen." The newcomer approached, studying me closely. "Leave us," he ordered. When we were alone, he removed my gag gently. I stared up, recognizing him instantly. "Hello, Colonel," he whispered. "Seems you found trouble without trying. Major Derek Sanborn, my former intelligence officer, supposedly working a desk job in Washington. What was he doing here?" "What have I stepped in, Derek?" I whispered back. He glanced nervously at the door. "Something big enough to pull me from retirement." "Those weren't water samples, Maya. That facility is processing weapons-grade biological material being sold to foreign buyers." My blood ran cold. "My son is safe, but you're not. Mercer isn't just some bureaucrat. He's running a private operation using government resources." He quickly checked my restraints. "I can't free you without blowing my cover. Hold out until tomorrow. We'll extract you during transport." "Who's we?" I asked. His answer was cut short by approaching footsteps. He quickly replaced my gag and stepped away. "No progress," he told the returning guard. "Maybe Mercer will have better luck tomorrow." As he left, his eyes met mine briefly. A silent message passed between us, reigniting the soldier I'd buried beneath 3 years of peaceful farming. Lieutenant Colonel Maya Wilson wasn't gone after all, and these men had no idea what they'd awakened by threatening my son. 3 days in my own barn. The rope had rubbed my wrists raw, the wooden chair digging splinters into my legs. Through the dusty air, sunlight streamed onto the hay-covered floor where I once taught Ethan to collect eggs from our hens. Now was my prison. The white cloth gag had been removed an hour ago when the man they called Regional Director Victor Mercer arrived. In his crisp navy suit and Italian leather shoes, he looked out of place in my weathered barn. "Ms. Wilson," he said, squatting to meet my eyes, "this unpleasantness can end immediately. Simply tell us who you sent the samples to." I studied him through swollen eyes. His manicured nails, the expensive watch on his wrist, the way he wrinkled his nose at the farm smells. This was no ordinary government worker. "I told your men everything," I said hoarsely. "I sent the samples to the county extension office. Check with Agent Thompson there." Mercer's smile never reached his eyes. "Agent Thompson has no record of receiving anything from you." "Try again." A cold knot formed in my stomach. Thompson had personally called to thank me for the samples, promising to expedite testing. If Mercer's people had gotten him. "Water," I croaked, buying time to think. One of the guards brought a bottle. As I drank, I noticed Mercer checking his immaculate watch impatiently. "Ms. Wilson, let me explain your situation clearly." He paced before me. "We know you discovered illegal dumping at the Riverside facility. We know you took evidence. What we don't know is who you're working with." "I'm not working with anyone. I'm just worried about my farm's water supply." Mercer sighed dramatically. "Your performance as a simple farmer might fool some, but not me." He nodded to a guard who handed him a tablet. "Let's discuss your son, Ethan." My blood froze as he turned the screen toward me. A live video feed showed Ethan playing basketball at my sister's house. "Beautiful home your sister has in Portland. Good school district." Mercer's voice was silk over steel. "It would be devastating if child services received an anonymous tip about abuse in that household." I lunged forward despite my restraints, chair legs scraping against the floor. "You stay away from my family." "Ah, there she is." Mercer smiled. "The real Maya Wilson begins to emerge." He set the tablet aside. "We're moving you tomorrow to a more appropriate facility for extended questioning. Tonight, you have time to reconsider your position." As they gagged me again and left me alone in the darkening barn, I fought to control my racing thoughts. My cover wasn't holding. Somehow, Mercer suspected I wasn't just a farmer. But did he know about my military background? I tested my restraints again. The work of amateurs, they'd bound my wrists over the sleeves of my jacket. After hours of subtle movement, I'd created enough slack to work with. If Derek was right about them transporting me tomorrow, that would be my chance. Night fell completely. The guard changed, leaving just one man at the barn door. Through the window high above me, I could see stars appearing. Somewhere out there, my team was mobilizing. The thought both comforted and worried me. I'd left that life behind for a reason. A soft scratching sound came from the back wall. 3 taps, pause, 2 taps. Our old unit signal. Heart pounding, I responded by knocking my chair leg against the floor in the same pattern. Minutes later, a narrow beam of light appeared as a loose board in the rear wall moved aside. A familiar face appeared in the gap. "Looking rough, Colonel," James whispered, glancing nervously at the door where the guard stood outside. I grunted against my gag. James carefully reached through the gap, pulling the cloth down around my neck. "Status," I whispered, falling instantly into our old communication pattern. "Ethan's secure." Sarah took him to the backup location. "Derek's embedded with Mercer's team. We've got satellite coverage and a strike team on standby." He passed a tiny earpiece through the gap. "Hide this until transport tomorrow." Channel 3. "What have I stumbled into, James?" My voice cracked. Biological weapons production disguised as chemical waste. The samples you took contain markers for a weaponized virus being developed for sale to non-state actors. Mercer's running a private operation using government resources and connections. The pieces click together, and they think I'm part of some environmental group. That's onto them. James nodded. Your cover as an environmentally conscious farmer worked too well. They think you're part of an activist group gathering evidence. How deep does this go? Deep enough that we're operating without official sanction. Your kidnapping triggered old protocols. Half the team came out of retirement for this. His eyes met mine. We don't leave our own behind. Footsteps approached outside. James quickly replaced my gag and slid the board back into place. I sat motionless as the guard peeked in, then resumed his post. I worked the tiny earpiece into my ear under the pretense of struggling against my restraints. The knowledge that my old unit had mobilized filled me with conflicting emotions. The life I'd built for Ethan, peaceful, normal, safe, was crumbling. Could I ever return to being just a farmer after this? Morning came with the sound of vehicles arriving. I'd managed maybe an hour of sleep, my body aching from days in the chair. The barn door opened, revealing Mercer with 4 armed men. Transport time, Ms. Wilson. He checked his watch. Final chance to make this easy on yourself. I stared back defiantly as they removed my gag. My son is fine for now. Mercer's phone chimed. He glanced at it, frowning. Secure her for transport. We're on a schedule. 2 men cut the ropes binding me to the chair, but immediately secured my hands with zip ties. My legs buckled when they pulled me up, partly from weakness, partly as an act. As they half-carried me toward the waiting van, I activated the earpiece with a subtle head movement. Mockingbird moving, I whispered, using my old call sign. For minutes to transport. Copy, came Derek's voice, barely audible. Extraction at checkpoint Delta. Prepare for contact. They pushed me into a van with blacked-out windows. No seats, just a metal floor where they forced me to kneel. 2 guards sat across from me, weapons ready. As the doors closed and the vehicle began moving down my driveway, I focused on my breathing. The moment was coming. 3 miles down the road, the van slowed for the sharp curve I knew well, the old county bridge with its single lane. The perfect choke point. 30 seconds, came the whisper in my ear. I tensed, ready. When the van suddenly braked hard, I was prepared. The guards weren't. As they pitched forward, I drove my shoulder into the first one, using the momentum to slam his head against the van wall. The second reached for his weapon, but I was already driving my bound hands upward into his throat. The van swerved violently, then stopped. Gunfire erupted outside. Using my teeth, I broke one guard's zip tie, then freed my own hands. When the back doors burst open, I was ready with the guard's weapon. James stood there, tactical gear replacing his farmer disguise. Clear. I jumped out to organize chaos. Derek's team had disabled the escort vehicles. Mercer was being secured, shock evident on his face as he recognized me from a different context. Lieutenant Colonel Wilson? He stammered. Impossible. I checked the zip ties on his wrists myself. Looks like you kidnapped the wrong farmer. Derek approached, handing me a tactical vest. We need to move. Their backup is inbound. As I strapped on the vest, reality hit me. My peaceful life was over. The farm was compromised. Ethan's world had changed again. All because I'd taken water samples from a creek. Maya, James said quietly, there's something else you need to know about those samples. The urgency in his voice made me pause. What? He handed me a secure tablet. They weren't just developing bioweapons. They were testing them on the local water supply. Your water supply. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Ethan's been drinking that water. We both have. Derek nodded grimly. That's why we need to get you both to a secure medical facility immediately. I stared at my farmhouse in the distance, the life I'd built disappearing before my eyes. What have they done to my son? What do you mean they tested it on our water? My voice cracked as I stared at the medical report on the tablet. Red flags marked elevated levels of something called compound, 47 in our well water samples. My hand shook. For 3 years, I thought we were safe. It's an experimental pathogen, Derek explained as our convoy sped down back roads, avoiding main highways. designed to stay dormant in the system until activated by a specific trigger. I grabbed his arm. Is Ethan sick? Tell me right now. James spoke from the driver's seat. That's why we need to get you both to the secure medical facility at Fort Carson. Initial tests on local children showed no symptoms yet. That single word hammered in my brain as rain began to fall, streaking the windows. My son might be carrying a weaponized disease. And it was my fault. My investigation had put him in danger. How much farther? I checked my weapon again, a familiar weight after years without one. Like riding a bike, the training came back instantly. 2 hours, barring complications. Derek handed me a secure phone. Call the safe house. Talk to Ethan. My fingers trembled as I dialed. After 3 rings, my sister Sarah answered. Maya? Thank God. Her voice shook with relief. Is he there? Is he okay? I pressed the phone hard against my ear. I'm fine, Mom. Ethan's voice came on the line, strong and clear. Aunt Sarah says we're going on a special trip. Are you coming too? Tears blurred my vision. Yes, baby. We'll be together soon. Are you feeling okay? Any tummy aches? Headaches? I'm okay. Just worried about you. The men who took you were bad, right? Yes, but I'm safe now. I swallowed hard. Listen carefully, Ethan. The doctors will need to run some tests when we see you. Nothing scary, just to make sure you're healthy. Can you be brave for me? Like when I had to get shots for school. Exactly like that. I fought to keep my voice steady. I love you so much. Love you too, Mom. Are we going back to the farm after? The question stabbed through me. Our home was compromised. Our peaceful life shattered. We'll talk about that later. Be good for Aunt Sarah. After hanging up, I leaned back against the seat, exhaustion hitting me like a physical blow. 3 days of captivity, no food, minimal water, and now this. He sounds good, James said, eyes on the road. For now, I stared out at the rain-soaked landscape. What's the trigger, Derek? What activates this compound 47? Derek hesitated. That's what we don't know yet. Could be anything, a specific food, medication, radio frequency. Without Mercer's research, we're blind. Then we need that research. I straightened, pushing aside exhaustion. Where would they keep it? Their main facility is under the Riverside chemical plant, Derek said. But it would be suicide to go there directly. They'll be on high alert after your escape. James caught my eye in the rearview mirror. You're thinking what I'm thinking, aren't you, Colonel? For the first time since my rescue, I smiled. We make Mercer tell us. We reached a roadblock 20 miles later. Not police. 2 black SUVs identical to those at my farm blocked the narrow mountain road. 6 men in tactical gear, weapons ready. Down! James yelled as bullets shattered our windshield. I pulled Derek to the floor as James swerved off-road, crashing through underbrush. The SUV bounced violently over rough terrain, engine screaming. How did they find us? I shouted over the noise. Derek pulled out a scanner, sweeping it over me. It beeped near my boot. Tracker. They put it on you during transport. I yanked off my boot. A small device was embedded in the rubber sole. James grabbed it and threw it out the window. Too late, he growled. They're behind us. Trees whipped past as we bounced down a steep slope. The pursuing vehicles followed, gaining ground on the descent. We need to split up. I checked my weapon. Get Mercer to the extraction point. I'll draw them off. Absolutely not, Derek protested. We don't leave. My son needs that cure. I cut him off. This isn't about me anymore. Before they could argue, I opened the door and rolled out into the underbrush. Pain shot through my already battered body as I tumbled to a stop. Through the trees, I saw our SUV continue downhill, 2 pursuit vehicles following. Except one suddenly braked, turning back. They'd spotted me. I ran through the woods, rain soaking through my clothes. 3 years of farm work had kept me strong, but days of captivity had taken a toll. My legs burned, lungs screamed for air. Gunshots, splintered tree bark near my head. I dropped, rolled behind a fallen log. 5 men spread out in pursuit, moving with military precision. Not government agents, private military contractors. Mercer's personal security. I steadied my breathing, raised my weapon, and took aim. The first shot dropped the nearest pursuer. The second missed as they dove for cover. She's armed, a voice shouted. Circle around. I broke cover, sprinting toward denser trees. A bullet clipped my arm, spinning me around. Pain flared, hot and sharp. I stumbled, but kept moving, using the trees for cover. The radio in my pocket crackled. "Mockingbird, what's your position?" James's voice. "Busy," I hissed, ducking as more bullets splintered wood above me. "We've got Mercer secure. Sending backup to your location." I glanced at the blood soaking my sleeve. "No time. Proceed to medical facility." "That's an order." The rain intensified, reducing visibility, a blessing and curse. I couldn't see them clearly, but they couldn't see me either. I reached a steep ravine, the bottom lost in mist. No way around. Behind me, voices approached. I holstered my weapon and began the treacherous descent, mud sliding under my boots. Halfway down, the earth gave way. I tumbled, grasping desperately at roots and rocks. Pain exploded through my already injured arm as I finally caught hold, dangling above a 30-foot drop. The voices above grew louder. I had seconds before they spotted me. With every ounce of remaining strength, I pulled myself onto a narrow ledge and pressed against the cliff face as my pursuers reached the edge above. "Lost her trail," one reported into a radio. "Find her." The response crackled through static. "She's the only leverage we have against Mercer." They moved away, continuing the search along the ravine's edge. I waited, counting breaths, fighting the urge to move. When silence returned, I carefully continued downward, finding footholds in the slick rock face. At the bottom, a shallow stream flowed through moss-covered stones. I watched the bullet graze on my arm, wrapping it with strips torn from my shirt. The cold water revived me, clearing my head. The rain eased to a drizzle as night approached. I needed shelter, warmth, and a plan. Following the stream would lead to civilization eventually, but also possible capture. Mountains loomed to the west, rougher terrain, but better cover. My radio crackled again. "Maya, are you there?" Derek's voice, barely audible through static. "Still alive?" I whispered. "What's your status?" "Medical team has Ethan. Initial blood work shows the compound present but dormant. They're running more tests." My throat tightened. "And Mercer, being stubborn, says the research is encrypted, needs his personal codes." I leaned against a tree, exhaustion washing over me. "Tell him I'm coming for those codes myself." "Maya," Derek hesitated. "There's something else. The team found documents at your farm. Your cover wasn't random." My blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" "Your farm's location was deliberately chosen. The water contamination, it was targeted. They were watching you specifically." The world seemed to tilt. "Why?" "I've been out of service for 3 years." Static filled the channel before Derek's voice returned. "Something about Operation Blackfish. Does that mean anything to you?" My knees gave way as I sank to the ground. Operation Blackfish, my last mission. The one I'd never spoken about. The one that had driven me to leave the military and hide away on a remote farm. "Maya, you still there?" I stared at the darkening sky, pieces falling into place. "They didn't kidnap me because I took water samples, did they?" Derek's silence was answer enough. "It was never about being an environmental activist." I whispered. "They knew exactly who I was all along." "Maya, whatever Blackfish was." "I'm going dark." I cut him off. "Tell medical to keep Ethan safe. And Derek, don't trust anyone outside our original team." I switched off the radio and pocketed it. Night had fallen completely now, the forest alive with sounds. Somewhere out there, Mercer's men were still searching. And somewhere beyond them lay answers about why my past had suddenly crashed into my present, threatening my son's life in the process. I took a deep breath, centered myself, and began moving west. Lieutenant Colonel Maya Wilson was fully awake now, and she had hunting to do. The mountain cabin looked abandoned, its windows dark against the rising sun. After a night navigating by stars through dense forest, my body screamed for rest. Blood had soaked through my makeshift bandage. My head pounded from dehydration, and every muscle ached from the climb. I approached cautiously, circling the structure. No vehicles, no footprints. The door hung slightly ajar, disturbed by animals or weather. Inside, dust-covered simple furniture, a table, chairs, a wood stove. A hunting cabin, and used since last season. My tactical training took over. Secure the perimeter. Find water. Treat wounds. Establish communication. I'd done this in countries whose names never appeared in mission reports. I could do it here. The cabin had a hand pump for water. After checking for tampering, I drank deeply, then cleaned and re-bandaged my arm. A search yielded basic supplies, canned food, matches, a first aid kit with expired but usable antiseptic. I powered on my radio briefly. Mockingbird checking in. Found shelter. Status. Static answered. Either mountains blocked the signal or they were jamming communications. Either way, I was on my own. Maps tacked to the cabin wall showed I was 12 miles from the nearest road. From there, another 30 to Fort Carson, where Ethan was being treated. Too far to walk quickly in my condition. I needed transportation. As morning warmed the cabin, I sorted through my options. Mercer's men would be watching roads, hospitals. My face will be flagged in every database they could access. But they'd expect me to head straight for the medical facility and my son. Instead, I needed to go where they wouldn't expect, straight back to the source. The Riverside chemical plant, where they were creating the biological weapon that now flowed through my son's veins. A crash outside jolted me from planning. I grabbed my weapon, flattening against the wall beside the window. Through dirty glass, I saw movement, not soldiers but a young man in hiking gear, stumbling up the path. He looked injured, clutching his ankle. Just a hiker who'd taken a fall? Or bait in a trap? I watched as he reached the cabin door, knocked weakly. Hello? Anybody? I need help. His face showed pain and fear, no sign of military bearing. Still, I'd seen better actors. Please. I fell down the ridge back there. My ankle. Why I didn't answer, he slumped against the door frame, sliding to sit on the porch. He pulled out a water bottle with shaking hands. Unaware, I watched from inside. Decision time. If he was innocent, he had a phone I could use. If not, I positioned myself behind the door, weapon ready. It's open, I called. Come in slowly. He startled at my voice, then pushed the door wider, hobbling inside. Thank God, I thought. My gun pressed against his temple, frozen mid-sentence. Phone. Slowly. Left hand only. My voice was steel. His eyes widened with genuine fear. Pea pocket. Left jacket pocket. Who are you? Tyler Reed. I'm just hiking the Carson Trail. 3 days solo. I slipped crossing the stream about a mile back. I patted him down one-handed, finding the phone and nothing else threatening. Sit down. Don't move. He obeyed, watching as I checked his phone. Full signal, 3 bars. Recent calls showed nothing suspicious. Text messages to Mom and Kayla about his hiking trip. Please, he said. What is this? Are you in trouble? I lower my weapon slightly. You could say that. His eyes took in my appearance. The blood-stained sleeve, the dirt and scratches, the hollow look of exhaustion. You're hurt. I have a first aid kit in my pack. Why would you help someone holding you at gunpoint? He shrugged. My sister's a nurse. Can't walk past someone bleeding. Something in his earnest face reminded me of the medic from my first tour. Against better judgment, I lowered the gun completely. I need to make a call. Then you can go. Relief flooded his face. Take your time. Not walking anywhere fast with this ankle. I stepped outside with his phone, dialing the secure number from memory. It rang twice before James answered. Who is this? His voice was guarded. It's Maya. Borrowed phone. Status. I heard him exhale sharply. Thank God. We thought. Never mind. Ethan's stable. The compound remains dormant. Doctors are working on identifying the trigger mechanism. And Mercer, refusing to cooperate, claims he's just a bureaucrat following orders. What about Blackfish? Any connection? James paused. We found something. 3 years ago, after Blackfish, you nearly died from an unknown illness. The symptoms match exposure to an early version of Compound, 47. The ground seemed to sway beneath me. They use it on me first? As a test subject? We think so. Your recovery wasn't miraculous. It was by design. They wanted to see if you could survive it. My free hand curled into a fist. They've been watching me all along. My water. My farm. My son. Maya. James hesitated. There's something else. Mercer finally revealed the trigger for the compound. What is it? A specific frequency. Radio waves at 87.3 gigahertz. When exposed, the compound activates, attacking major organs within hours. Cold dread washed through me. And they have transmitters? Mobile ones, small enough to mount on drones or vehicles. I leaned against the cabin wall, legs suddenly weak. They were never planning to let me escape the farm. Were they? Just needed me isolated for. I couldn't finish the thought. The team intercepted chatter. They're mobilizing something called Final Protocol. We think it's. The line crackled, then died. I stared at the phone. No signal now. Moments before, it had full bars. They were jamming communications, which meant the distant sound of helicopter rotors confirmed my fear. They'd triangulated the call. I rushed back inside. Tyler looked up, alarmed at my expression. We need to move. Now. I gather my few supplies. What's happening? He struggled to stand on his injured ankle. Bad people are coming. If they find you with me, they'll kill you. I gestured to his leg. Can you walk at all? He nodded, face pale. With help. There's a ravine half a mile east. Dense tree cover. Hide there until the helicopters leave. I handed him back his phone. Don't try to use this. They're tracking signals. What about you? I checked my weapon. I'm heading the opposite direction. They'll follow me. He stared, understanding dawning. You're using yourself as bait. Something like that. I helped him to the door. Go now. Stay low. As he limped away, I whispered a silent apology. For bringing danger dam. For 3 years of not knowing my son drank contaminated water. For failing in all the ways that mattered. The helicopter sounds grew louder. 2 of them, coming from the south. I had minutes, not hours. I ran north, away from Tyler's path, making no attempt to hide my trail. Let them follow me. Every minute they spent chasing me was another minute for my team to find a cure, another minute my son stayed alive. The forest thinned as I climbed higher, legs burning with effort. Behind me, helicopter rotors chopped the air, closer now. I reached a rocky outcropping and paused, gasping for breath. Below, the cabin was visible. 2 black helicopters circling it like vultures. Men in tactical gear rappelled down, securing the area. Not local police or regular military. Private contractors with high-end equipment. One carried something that looked like a bulky radar gun. The frequency transmitter? Fear surged through me. If they activated that near Ethan, the radio in my pocket suddenly crackled to life. Colonel Wilson, a voice I recognized immediately. Not Derek or James. Not any of my team. General Howard Blackwood, my former commanding officer. The man who'd sent me on Operation Blackfish. I know you can hear me, Maya. His voice hadn't changed in 3 years. This has gone far enough. I hesitated, then keyed the radio. Bit far for a house call, General. Come in, and we can end this cleanly. Your son will receive the antidote. You have my word. Like I had your word when you sent me into that lab in Karachi. When you said it was a routine inspection, the radio was silent for a moment. You were never supposed to find those test subjects. That section was meant to be sealed. Children, General. They were experimenting on children. My voice shook with rage. Just like you're doing to my son now. A regrettable necessity for national security. The compound needed testing in developing immune systems. Below, the men had found my trail, moving upslope toward my position. The helicopter repositioned, searchlight sweeping the trees. Call them off, I demanded, or what I found in Karachi goes public. All of it. The thumb drive was destroyed in the explosion. You think I didn't make copies? I bluffed, watching the men draw closer. Release the antidote formula, and the files stay buried. The radio went silent again. Longer this time. Below, the search party suddenly stopped, awaiting new orders. One condition. Blackwood finally responded. You come in. Debriefing. Full confidentiality agreement. My son gets treated first. Agreed. Coordinates being transmitted now. Numbers flashed on my radio display. A location 10 miles northwest. The command center for this operation. How do I know this isn't a trap? I asked, though we both knew it almost certainly was. Because I'm there personally, Colonel. It's time we finished our conversation from 3 years ago. The radio went dead. Below, the search team retreated to the helicopter. I slumped against the rock face, processing what had just happened. General Blackwood himself was running this operation. My former mentor, the man I'd once trusted with my life. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. But his presence changed everything. He wouldn't be in the field unless something critical was at stake. Something more than silencing one former soldier. Whatever I'd stumbled onto at my farm wasn't just about weapons development or legal testing. It was bigger than that. Big enough to bring a 3-star general out of Washington. I checked my weapon, taking stock of my situation. Injured, exhausted, outgunned, and now heading directly into what was certainly a trap. But I was also something they didn't expect, a mother fighting for her child's life. And that made me infinitely more dangerous than any lieutenant colonel they trained. As the helicopters retreated toward their base, I began moving northwest, toward General Blackwood, toward answers, toward the only hope my son had for survival. And if those answers came with a cost, so be it. Some prices a mother would gladly pay. The military compound appeared through the morning mist like something from another world. 3 large buildings surrounded by fences topped with razor wire. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Cameras swiveled on tall poles. This wasn't just some temporary base. This was a permanent black site hiding in plain sight under the cover of being a private research facility. I watched from the tree line, my body screaming for rest after hours of hiking through rugged terrain. General Blackwood was in there somewhere. So were answers about why my son was now fighting for his life. My rage burned cold and steady. For 3 years, I had played the simple farmer. I had packed lunches, kissed scraped knees, planted tomatoes, and tried to forget what I'd seen in Karachi. What I'd done afterward. Now, the past had found me anyway, and Ethan was paying the price. The radio in my pocket crackled. "Colonel Wilson, we know you're out there. The main gate is open for you." I didn't respond. Only a fool would walk through the front door. Instead, I circled west, where the fence line ran close to heavy trees. Years of operational experience had taught me every facility had weaknesses. This one's appeared to be overconfidence. A supply truck approached the gate, slowing for inspection. Perfect timing. While the guards were distracted, I sprinted to the fence, using wire cutters from my boot to create an opening just large enough to squeeze through. The cameras had blind spots if you knew how to spot them. 3 minutes later, I was inside the perimeter, ducking between storage buildings. Workers in lab coats walked between facilities, some carrying tablets, others pushing carts of equipment. No one looked my way. I was too filthy, too bloody to be mistaken for one of them. I needed a disguise. A small maintenance shed provided the answer, worker coveralls hanging on hooks. I slipped inside, changed quickly, and pinned my hair up under a cap. The outfit was too large, but it covered my dirty clothes and injuries. I grabbed a clipboard for good measure. Back outside, I walked with purpose toward the main building. Head down, clipboard high, the universal posture of someone too busy to be bothered. A keycard scanner blocked the entrance. I waited, counting seconds, until a distracted scientist approached, eyes on his phone. Forgot my card again, I mumbled, hunching my shoulders. Without looking up, he swiped his badge, holding the door. "Third time this week, right?" He glanced at me finally, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. "Thanks," I said, already moving inside before he could reconsider. The interior reminded me of military hospitals, sterile, bright, efficient. Signs pointed to different departments: research, testing, administration. I followed the last one, guessing Blackwood wouldn't be hidden among lab technicians. "Hey, you," a sharp voice called from behind. I kept walking, turning a corner quickly and entering the first door I saw. It was a small office, empty except for computers and filing cabinets. A poster on the wall detailed evacuation procedures. Perfect. I memorized the building layout shown there. The administrative wing was 1 floor up. I took stairs instead of elevators, avoiding cameras where possible. The higher I went, the more security I encountered. Men in tactical gear rather than rent-a-cop uniforms. These were serious operators. If they saw through my disguise, I wouldn't make it out alive. Outside a door marked conference room, two guards stood at attention. Beyond them would be Blackwood. But how to get past? A fire alarm caught my eye at the end of the hall. Risky but effective. I approached the guards confidently. "Maintenance check on the alarm system," I said, flashing the clipboard. "Need access behind you." "We weren't notified," one replied, hand moving subtly toward his weapon. "Last-minute directive. Some big meeting today. Has the boss worried everything's perfect?" I kept my voice bored, slightly annoyed. "I can call him if you want the details," but he seemed pretty stressed already. They exchanged glances. "Make it quick," the first one said, stepping aside. I moved past them to the wall panel, removed a small screwdriver from the coverall's pocket, and pretended to check connections. When both guards glanced away, I pulled the fire alarm. Chaos erupted instantly. Blaring sirens, flashing lights. The guards cursed, torn between staying at their post and following evacuation protocols. I used their moment of confusion to slip through the conference room door, locking it behind me. Inside, General Howard Blackwood stood at the head of a long table, surrounded by men in suits who jumped at the alarm. At 63, he looked exactly as I remembered. Silver hair, cropped military short, posture ramrod straight, eyes hard as granite. Those eyes widened slightly as he recognized me. "Everyone out," he ordered the others. Security breach protocols. Now, the suits rushed out another door as Blackwood calmly sat down. "Dramatic entrance, Maya. Some things never change." I leveled my weapon at him. "Where's the antidote for my son?" He gestured to a chair. "Please, let's be civilized. My son is dying because of you. Civilization is off the table." Blackwood sighed. "If I wanted you dead, those guards would have had shoot-on-sight orders." I meant what I said about finishing our conversation. "This isn't a conversation. It's an interrogation." I kept my gun aimed at his chest. "Why target my son?" "We didn't. You were never supposed to have children, Maya. Your exposure in Karachi should have left you sterile. When our surveillance detected you had a child." He spread his hands. It raised questions that needed answers. Cold horror spread through me. "You've been watching me since Karachi? Since I resigned?" "You never resigned. You were placed on extended medical leave. There's a difference." My finger tightened on the trigger. "You used me as a test subject. Then you used my son. We used an asset with unique characteristics to advance critical research." His voice remained calm, reasonable. "The children in Karachi were already infected when you found them. We simply continued their treatment under proper protocols." "You were weaponizing the disease," I said, "just like you're doing now." "We were developing countermeasures against enemies who would do far worse." He leaned forward. "What you saw as victims, we saw as necessary sacrifice for millions of lives saved, including yours." The alarm suddenly silenced, leaving a ringing in my ears. Security would be reorganizing now, realizing the alarm was a diversion. "Your son's condition can be reversed," Blackwood said. "The compound hasn't been activated, but it could be, any moment, with your transmitter." He nodded. "A precaution we never intended to implement. Your unexpected escape forced contingency measures." "Don't lie to me, General. You were going to kill us both once you confirmed the compound worked." Something flickered across his face. "Regret?" "You were my best operative, Maya. I mourned when I thought we'd lost you in Karachi." "Save it. Where's the antidote?" He opened a drawer slowly, telegraphing his movements. From it, he withdrew a small metal case. The formula and samples. Enough for 2 treatments. I kept my gun steady, suspicious. "2, you're also infected, Maya. You have been for 3 years. The symptoms will return eventually without treatment." The room seemed to tilt. "That's why you let me live. To see how long the dormant phase could last. Your survival provided valuable data. Your son's existence offered an unexpected research opportunity." He pushed the case across the table. "Take it." As my hand closed around the case, the door behind me burst open. I spun, weapon raised, but too late. Something sharp struck my shoulder. I looked down to see a dart protruding from my coveralls. Already, numbness spread through my arm. "I'm truly sorry, Maya," Blackwood said as my vision blurred. "But compound 47 is too valuable to lose. And so are you." My knees buckled as darkness closed in. The last thing I saw was Blackwood reaching for the metal case, his face a mask of practiced regret. I woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor. Soft blankets covered me instead of dirt and leaves. Clean bandages wrapped my injured arm. For one confused moment, I thought I was back in the military hospital after Karachi. Then I saw Ethan, my son, lay in a hospital bed across the room, small and pale against white sheets. And IV dripped clear fluid into his arm. Monitors tracked his vital signs. He was alive. I tried to move and found my wrist handcuffed to the bed rail. Of course, Blackwood wouldn't risk me escaping again. Mom! Ethan's eyes fluttered open. You're awake. Hey, buddy. My voice cracked with emotion. How are you feeling? Okay. The doctors are nice. They said we're both sick, but getting better. His innocent trust broke my heart. Are we at a special hospital? Before I could answer, the door opened. A doctor entered, followed by James and, surprisingly, Derek. Both men wore civilian clothes, but their eyes told me everything. This wasn't a rescue. This was containment. Good morning, Colonel. The doctor checked my vitals. The treatment is proceeding as expected. Both you and your son are responding well. What treatment? I demanded. What have you given him? The antidote to compound 47, she replied calmly. General Blackwood authorized emergency protocol. James stepped forward. Maya, we need to talk. The doctor nodded. I'll give you a moment. The boy should rest. She adjusted something in Ethan's IV, and his eyes soon drifted closed. What's happening? I whispered once she'd left. Why are you two here? Derek looked uncomfortable. We've been briefed on Blackfish, the full operation. Then you know Blackwood is experimenting on children. On my son. James shook his head. It's more complicated than that. Don't give me that line. I yanked against the handcuff. You've seen what they're doing. This is a black site off the books. It's a secure medical facility, Derek countered. Maya, your son is alive because of the treatment they developed here. I stared at my former teammates, understanding dawning with sickening clarity. You're with them. You've been with them all along. James sighed. We're with you, Maya. Always have been. But General Blackwood showed us the bigger picture. Which is? Karachi wasn't just a rogue lab, Derek explained. It was the first successful test of a biological defense program. What you found wasn't victims. It was success. Those children were dying. And then they weren't, James said quietly. The disease was engineered to strengthen their immune systems after the initial phase, make them resistant to dozens of biological weapons. At what cost? I demanded. Turning them into carriers? Living weapons. Derek looked away. There are aspects of the program that went too far. We agree. But the core research has saved lives. Including yours, James added. When you were exposed in Karachi, you should have died within hours. The modified strain they gave you as treatment kept you alive. I struggled to process this betrayal. And now, Ethan, you're saying what they put in our water was helping us. Not exactly, Derek admitted. After you disappeared, the program changed direction, became more militarized. The version in your water supply was a tracking mechanism, a way to monitor you both remotely. And kill us if necessary, I added bitterly. Neither man denied it. So what now? I rattled a handcuff. We're prisoners? Test subjects. That depends on you, said a new voice. General Blackwood entered, looking every bit the distinguished military leader in his dress uniform. Your son will make a full recovery, as will you, with continued treatment. Why should I believe anything you say? Because despite what you think of me, I've never lied to you. Withheld information, yes, but never lied. I laughed harshly. Is that how you sleep at night, General? He pulled up a chair beside my bed. I sleep knowing the work we do here protects millions from threats they'll never know existed, including your son, by turning him into a weapon, by giving him immunity no other child on Earth possesses. Blackwood leaned closer. The compound in his system will protect him from every biological agent our enemies have developed. He'll never suffer from most common diseases. His life expectancy has effectively doubled. I looked over at Ethan, sleeping peacefully. At what price? Monitoring, quarterly blood tests, nothing that would prevent a normal life. He paused. and your return to service. There it was, the real purpose behind everything. You did all this, endanger my son, hunted me across mountains to get me back into the program. You are our most successful subject, Maya. Your body adapted to the compound in ways we're still studying. And your son, Blackwood, actually smiled. Second-generation exposure has produced remarkable results. Together, you represent the future of biological defense. You're insane. I'm practical. He stood. You have 24 hours to decide. Accept a position here as special consultant, with your son receiving the best care and education available. Or what? You'll kill us? Experiment on us? Or you'll be processed through regular military channels. Charges of desertion, theft of classified information, assault on federal officers. His voice hardened. Your son would become a ward of the state. Given his special medical needs, he would naturally remain in a specialized facility. Like this one. Ice filled my veins. You take my son. The choice is yours, Colonel. He moved toward the door. I'll return tomorrow for your answer. After he left, I turned to James and Derek. Tell me you're not really part of this. Derek looked at the floor. We thought we were rescuing you. And then we saw the data, James said. What the program has achieved. The threats it's neutralized. So you abandoned your principles. Followed orders. We chose the path that saves lives, Derek countered. Including yours and Ethan's. I stared at the ceiling, mind racing through options. If I agreed to Blackwood's terms, what happens? You'd work here. Limited access at first, but eventually full clearance. James seemed relieved by my question. Ethan would attend the school on campus. You'd have comfortable housing, good pay. A gilded cage. Second chance, Derek said, to make something good come from Karachi. When they finally left, I lay watching Ethan breathe, tears running silently down my face. Everything I'd done, leaving the military, hiding away on the farm, building a normal life, had been pointless. We'd never escaped, never been free. Near midnight, the door opened again. A nurse entered, checking Ethan's before approaching my bed. Time for your medication, she said quietly. As she leaned over to adjust my her face came close to mine. Tomorrow morning, fire drill. Power backup test. 30-second window. Her voice was barely audible. Main gate. Blue van. My eyes widened slightly, but I gave no other reaction. She finished her work and left without another word. I stared into the darkness, hope flickering to life. Someone on the inside was helping us. But who? And could I trust them? Dawn approached with agonizing slowness. I tested the handcuff again. Solid steel, no give. Even if we reached the gate, Blackwood security would be waiting. We wouldn't get a mile before capture. Unless. I thought about what Derek had said. The compound in our systems allowed them to track us remotely. That's how they'd found me after I escaped the farm. How they'd followed me through the mountains. If we were going to truly escape, we needed to become invisible. Ethan stirred, opening his eyes. Mom? Are we going home soon? I looked at my beautiful boy, the reason for everything. Yes, baby. Very soon. But I need you to be brave again. Can you do that? He nodded solemnly. Like a soldier? Like a soldier. I smiled through unshed tears. When I say run, you run. No questions. Okay. His absolute trust nearly broke me. The facility began waking up around us. Doctors making rounds. Guards changing shifts. At precisely 8:30 a.m., alarms blared. The fire drill right on schedule. Seconds later, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting the room in dim red glow. The door opened. The nurse from last night entered swiftly. Now, she said, unlocking my handcuff. We have 28 seconds. Who are you? I asked, already moving to disconnect Ethan's Someone who saw the Karachi files. The real ones. She handed me a small device. Electromagnetic pulse. It will disrupt the compound's tracking signature for 6 hours. I helped Ethan into a wheelchair as she led us through suddenly dark corridors. Guards are distracted, focused on securing exits according to protocol. We passed them unnoticed in the confusion. True to her word, a blue van waited at the main gate, engine running. The guard booth was empty, part of the security test. "Get in," she urged, helping Ethan into the back. "Come with us," I said, suddenly concerned for this stranger who risked everything. She shook her head. "I have others to help. Go north." Instructions in the glove compartment. As we drove through the gate, alarms suddenly changed tone. "Security breach. All gates locked down." But we were already outside the perimeter, accelerating onto the main road. In the rearview mirror, I saw the facility's gates closing, guards rushing to positions. "Are the bad people following us?" Ethan asked, eyes wide. I activated the pulse device. "Not anymore, sweetheart. Not anymore." But as the facility disappeared behind us, I couldn't shake the feeling that this escape had been too easy. That somewhere, General Blackwood was watching, calculating, waiting. Because some cages weren't made of walls and fences. Some were made of biology, of blood, of the very thing keeping us alive. Blood drips onto the floor as I stumble through the dark hallway. The bullet in my shoulder burns like fire. I press my hand against it, but the blood keeps coming. Behind me, Mercer lies on the cold floor of the server room. He won't be following me anymore. "Wilson, what's your status?" James's voice crackles through my earpiece. "I'm hit," I whisper, leaning against the wall to catch my breath. "But I got the files. All of them." Red lights flash overhead as alarms scream through the building. Guards shout in the distance, their boots thumping against the floor as they run. I need to move faster, but my body feels heavy, like I'm trying to run underwater. The exit door appears at the end of the hallway, just 50 more feet. Outside, freedom waits. And Ethan, my sweet boy who hasn't seen his mother in days. Does he think I abandoned him? I push off the wall and force my legs to move. One step, another. The shouting grows louder behind me. My hand leaves bloody smears on the door as I push it open. The cool night air hits my face. James waits in a black car, engine running. He jumps out when he sees me stumbling toward him. "Maya." "Jesus." He catches me before I fall. "We need to get you to medical now." "No," I argue as he helps me into the back seat. "Take me to my son." "You'll bleed out," he argues, pressing a cloth against my wound. "Then drive faster." The car speeds through empty streets as I drift in and out of consciousness. Memories flash before my eyes. Ethan's birth, teaching him to ride a bike, planting our first crops together. The peaceful life I try to build for us, now shattered like glass. 2 hours later, we arrive at the safe house. Colonel Richards, my commanding officer for 15 years, waits inside. His face, usually stern and unreadable, shows concern when he sees my blood-soaked clothes. "Get the medic," he orders, helping me to a chair. "The files first," I insist, handing over the blood smear drive. Everything's there. Shipping manifests, contact lists, bank accounts. Mercer was selling weapons-grade biological material to 3 different countries. Richards nods gravely. We've already started rounding up his network. "Good work, Lieutenant Colonel." The medic arrives, cutting away my shirt to expose the wound. The bullet passed clean through, missing anything vital. Lucky, but luck always runs out eventually. "The mission's complete, Maya. You've done enough," Richards says as the medic works. "We're offering you a fresh start. New identities for you and Ethan. Somewhere safe." I close my eyes, feeling the needle pierce my skin as the medic begins stitching. A new start sounds good. No more looking over my shoulder. No more secrets. "My farm?" I ask, already knowing the answer. "Compromised. We'll sell it, put the money in an account for you. You could buy something new, somewhere else." Something inside me breaks at those words. The farm was our home, our sanctuary, the place where I finally felt peace after years of war and secrets. The place where Ethan learned to laugh again after his father died. But my son's safety comes first. Always. "I need to call my sister," I say. She's been watching Ethan. Richards hands me a secure phone. My hands shake as I dial Sarah's number. 1 ring. 2. Then her voice, tight with fear. "Maya, is that you?" "It's me. I'm okay. I'm coming to get Ethan now." Silence on the line. Then a sound that freezes the blood in my veins. My sister crying. "Sarah? What's wrong?" "They took him, Maya," she sobs. "Mercer's people found him. They came to the house 6 hours ago. I tried to stop them, but they had guns. They hurt David when he tried to fight back. The room spins around me. My wow no longer matters. Nothing matters except those words. They took him. Did they say anything? I ask, my voice deadly calm while everything inside me screams. Any demands? They said you'd know what they want. They said to tell you that if you want to see Ethan alive again, you'll bring them what you stole. Richards is already on his phone, barking orders. James paces the room, his face grim. But their voices fade into background noise as a cold, terrible focus settles over me. Sarah, are you and David safe now? Yes, she sniffles. The police came, but they don't understand what's happening. Maya, I'm so sorry. This isn't your fault. I cut her off. I'm going to fix this. I promise. I hang up and stand, ignoring the medic's protests and the fresh blood seeping through my bandages. Where are you going? Richard demands. You need to rest. We'll handle this. I shake my head. No, you won't. Because you'll follow protocols and procedures. You'll assemble a team and make plans and assess risks. And while you're doing all that, my son will be terrified, wondering why his mother isn't coming for him. Maya, they want me, I say, checking the ammunition in my gun. So they're going to get me, but not the way they expect. James steps forward. You're not going alone. I look at my old friend, the man who's saved my life more times than I can count. I can't ask you to risk your career, your life. You're not asking, he interrupts. I'm telling. That's my godson those bastards took. Richards sighs heavily. I can give you 12 hours before I have to report this. After that, I can't protect either of you. 12 hours to find my son, to make Mercer's people pay. I nod once and turn toward the door, my mind already mapping out what comes next. Behind me, I hear Richard say quietly, God help them when she finds them. God won't help them, and neither will I. The gates of Mercer's estate loom before me in the pre-dawn darkness. Tall iron bars topped with spikes, security cameras watching every angle. Beyond them stands a mansion where my son is being held. I count 6 guards on the perimeter. James whispers beside me. 2 at the gate for patrolling. More inside, probably. I nod, feeling strangely calm. The pain in my shoulder has faded to a dull throb, pushed aside by something stronger than pain. Something primal. Remember, I say quietly, Ethan is the only priority. Nothing else matters. 3 hours ago, we tracked Mercer's second-in-command to this estate through the files I stole. Francis Delgado, a man who's been running Mercer security for years. A man who now has my son. I'm going in first, I tell James. Wait for my signal. He doesn't argue. He knows that tone in my voice. I approach the gate openly, letting the cameras see me. The guards spot me immediately, raising their weapons. Stop right there, one shouts. And where we can see them. I slowly raise my hands. My name is Maya Wilson. I believe you've been expecting me. The guards exchange glances, then one speaks into his radio. A minute later, the gates begin to open. They're bringing you in, James says through my hidden earpiece. Too easy. Yes, too easy. But that's what they want, me walking willingly into their trap. What they don't know is that the trap is mine. For more guards surround me as I'm escorted up the long driveway to the mansion. Colonial style, white columns, perfectly manicured gardens. Blood money built this place. Inside, the house is silent and cold. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, paintings in gold frames. They lead me to a large study where a man sits behind a desk, his silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. Francis Delgado. I've seen his face in files, but never in person. Lieutenant Colonel Wilson, he says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Or should I say, Farmer Wilson, you've caused us quite a bit of trouble. Where's my son? I demand. Delgado gestures to one of the guards, who leaves the room. He's here. Safe. For now. That depends entirely on you. I stand perfectly still, my hands loose at my sides. Counting guards. Noting exits. Watching Delgado's every move. You have something that belongs to us, he continues. Data that could be very problematic if it reached certain people. Already gave it to those people. I reply. It's over, Delgado. Mercer is done. Your operation is exposed. His smile falters for just a second. I don't believe you. If that were true, this house would be swarming with federal agents. The door opens and my heart stops. There's Ethan, my beautiful boy, being held firmly by the arm. His face is pale, his eyes red from crying, but otherwise he seems unharmed. Mom, he cries, trying to run to me, but the guard holds him back. It's okay, baby, I say, my voice steady even as rage builds inside me. Everything's going to be okay. Delgado watches our reunion with cold eyes. Touching. Now let's discuss terms. You will tell me exactly who has the data and how to reach them. You will make a call retracting your accusations. You will explain that it was all a misunderstanding. I look at my son, and our eyes meet. Something passes between us, something Delgado can't see or understand. Even at 10 years old, Ethan is my son. He knows me better than anyone. And if I do all that, I ask, you let us both walk out of here? Delgado's smile returns. Of course. Lies. I can see it in his eyes. Neither of us is leaving this house alive if he has his way. I need proof that you'll keep your word. I say, let my son go first. Release him to my sister. Then I'll do whatever you want. Mom, no. Ethan protests. That's not how this works, Delgado says, his voice hardening. The boy stays until our business is concluded. I take a deep breath. Then we have a problem, because I'm not saying another word until I know my son is safe. Delgado stares at me for a long moment, then sighs dramatically. You military types. So stubborn. He turns to the guard. Take the boy downstairs. If his mother doesn't cooperate in the next 5 minutes, shoot him. No. I lunge forward, but 2 guards grab my arms, forcing me back. As they drag Ethan from the room, he looks back at me, his eyes wide with fear. Mom! The door closes, and his cries fade. Delgado stands, walking around his desk. Now, Lieutenant Colonel, let's try again. Where's the data? I stare at him, letting him see exactly what's coming for him in my eyes. That was your last mistake. He frowns. Excuse me. You should have kept him in here, I say quietly, because now there's nothing stopping me from killing every single person in this room. Delgado laughs. You're outnumbered and unarmed. I smile for the first time since entering his house. Am I? The lights throughout the mansion suddenly cut out, plunging the room into darkness. Through my earpiece, I hear James, powers down. Moving in. What follows happens in seconds. Years of training, of fighting in the dark, guide my movements. The guards are confused, shouting, fumbling for flashlights. I'm already moving. The first guard goes down with a strike to the throat. I take his gun before he hits the floor. The second fires wildly into the darkness, hitting nothing. My bullet finds him with precision. Delgado is scrambling for his desk drawer, likely for a weapon. I am Fastev. When emergency lights flicker on 30 seconds later, I'm standing over Delgado, his own gun pressed against his forehead. Call them, I say, my voice ice. Tell them to bring my son. Now. Fear finally breaks through his arrogant facade. He reaches shakily for his radio. Throughout the mansion, gunfire erupts as James and the small team we assembled, former squad members who dropped everything when I called, engage the remaining guards. Please, Delgado whimpers. I have a family too. Then you should have thought about that before taking mine. Footsteps in the hallway. The door bursts open. I don't take my eyes off Delgado. Even as James enters, Ethan held protectively behind him. Mom! Ethan breaks free, running to me. I catch him with one arm, holding him tight against my side while keeping the gun steady. Close your eyes, baby, I whisper. Please, Delgado begs. I'll tell you everything. Names, contacts, all of it. I look at him coldly. Start talking. 2 hours later, we walk out of the mansion. Behind us, federal agents swarm the property, taking custody of Delgado and his surviving men. Colonel Richards kept his word. After 12 hours, he sent in the cavalry. Ethan holds my hand tightly as we walk toward the waiting cars. Are the bad men gone now? He asks quietly. I kneel in front of him, looking into his eyes so much like his father's. Yes, baby. They can't hurt us anymore. Can we go home? To our farm. The question breaks my heart. Not to our old farm, but we'll find a new home, I promise. Somewhere safe. He nods solemnly, then wraps his arms around my neck. I knew you'd come for me, he whispers. I told him my mom is a hero. I hold him tight, feeling his small heart beating against mine. This is what I fought for. I'll always fight for. As dawn breaks over the horizon, lighting up the sky in shades of pink and gold, I make a silent promise to my son and to myself. No more secrets, no more missions. From now on, I'm just his mother, not Lieutenant Colonel Wilson, not a government operative, just Maya, a mom who will do anything to keep her child safe. But as we walk toward our uncertain future, I can't help but wonder, when you've lived so long in shadows, can you ever truly step into the light?